Well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Edward Byrne. I'm the President and Principal here at King's College London, the Vice-Chancellor in normal UK university terms. It's really a huge privilege to welcome you all for what is a very, very special occasion for this institution and for the study of Portuguese culture in the Portuguese world and the Portuguese language here at King's. Of course, the thing that has brought us together is 100 years of the Camões chair. Just a wonderful journey with marvellous contributions by many, many people over almost a century. I'd like to start by acknowledging a wonderful list of most distinguished guests, which shows, I think, the importance of this chair in the Portuguese language world, if that is the way to describe it. But we're very fortunate to have the president of the Camões Institute of Portugal, Luís Faro Ramos, the ambassador of Brazil in the United Kingdom, Fred Arruda, the ambassador of Portugal to this country, Manuel Lobo Antunes, the ambassador of Angola, Rui Jorge Coniero Mangueira, the Minister Counselor of the Mozambique High Commission, Omar Amane, and from the Portuguese Embassy also the Attaché for Educational Affairs, Regina Duarte. From King's, we have had our Provost, Evelyn Welsh. We have the Dean of our Faculty of Arts and Humanities, Professor Marion Taine, and most significantly, our leading academics, the Camões Professor David Treece, the Charles Boxer Professor Francisco Bethencourt, the Head of Department of Portuguese, Spanish and Latin American Studies, Federico Bernardio. So welcome to all the distinguished colleagues I've welcomed, and I'm sure to many other equally distinguished colleagues I haven't mentioned by name. I only want to make a few remarks of introduction because we have a list of most distinguished speakers coming up. But to maintain the Camões Centre for Portuguese Studies at King's is a crucial strategic ambition for us, and also the Portuguese language teaching capacity that we have. The teaching of Portuguese in British universities was pioneered by King's in the 1860s, and since the establishment of this distinguished chair in 1919, the college has become a leading centre for Portuguese studies. The Camões Centre relates to a long and prestigious historical and contemporary tradition of the study of Portugal and Portuguese at King's, but has also spread into Latin America and to Portuguese-speaking countries around the world. The Camões Centre for Studies in Portuguese Language and Culture was created relatively recently, quite some years after the chair, in 2010, by an institute celebrated by Instituto Camões, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Portugal, and King's College London. The centre provides the teaching staff and the students of KCL and many other interested parties the means to deepen their knowledge in the fields of language, culture, history, politics, and Portuguese society, and to participate in academic and cultural activities within these fields. So while very active in the Portuguese language area, it has a broader brief. It works as a focal point of Portuguese-related activities across a range of academic disciplines at university level in the United Kingdom. The centre organises interdisciplinary symposia involving Portuguese, Brazilian, and African Lusophone cultures. It mediates protocols with Portuguese universities and promotes the exchange of professors and students. It builds links with Portuguese organisations and institutions in education and in the cultural sector. With a clear interdisciplinary approach, the centre aims to contribute at a high level indeed to a growing interest in the Portuguese language, and we've noticed that's getting ever greater in recent times, and to our own university's broader internationalisation strategy. The Camões Instituto de Cooperação e da Língua is a public institute integrated in the Portuguese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Camões promotes the internationalization of Portuguese culture and organizes the Portuguese educational network abroad across all educational sectors. I'm very sorry not to be able to stay with you for the whole evening tonight, especially the music and poetry. I had the opportunity to read in translation some wonderful Portuguese poetry while traveling in Portugal last year and found it stunningly good. Although I can't read the untranslated versions we've been provided with, undoubtedly I will get somebody to translate them for me and enjoy them every bit as much. So look, that is all from me. Please have a most enjoyable evening. Thank you again for joining us on this really important occasion for Portuguese language and culture in the United Kingdom and more broadly. And I will now welcome the first of our distinguished guests, the President of Camões from Portugal, to address us briefly. I'm sorry if my pronunciation isn't quite right, but I was given two versions, a Portuguese version and a Brazilian version, and I wasn't quite sure which to use tonight. Thank you.
Então, muito boa tarde. These are my only words in Portuguese, don't worry, because I will be speaking in English. Distinguished principal, ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, it's an honor for me to be here today celebrating the Portuguese Language and Culture Day, and also celebrating 100 years of Portuguese Studies, the chair, Camões, at this university. Indeed, 100 years have passed since the beginning of Portuguese language studies at King's College, taking us back to 1918, when the Portuguese Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs, then the doctor and researcher Egas Muniz, who would win the Nobel Prize in 1949, established an annual scholarship for the creation of a Camões chair at the University of London. Today, our cooperation with this prestigious university is strong. It builds on initiatives of men and women of vision who valued our language. In 1947, Professor Charles Boxer launched a chair of Portuguese Studies. And in 1996, Camões and King's College signed a protocol establishing the chair Charles Boxer, a tribute to the founder. This is a lasting partnership, and we thank you for that. In 2010, we have launched the Center for Studies in Portuguese Language and Culture, chaired by Professor João Paulo Silvestre. This center has been playing an important role in the area of Lusophone studies, also connecting with the other centers in the UK and abroad. I thank also Professor Silvestre and Professor Bethencourt for their efforts, because they keep alive the plural flame, as Eduardo Lourenço, one of the greatest Portuguese thinkers alive, said already. Other speakers would elaborate eloquently on this older partnership that we have with King's College. I will concentrate myself very briefly on the importance and dimensions of the Portuguese language today and for the future. I had the opportunity of offering the principal the new Atlas of the Portuguese language, which I advise everybody to consult, because it's very interesting, it's very useful as a tool to know a bit more on what Portuguese means today and what Portuguese will mean in the future. Every minute, the population in Portuguese-speaking countries is growing, especially in Africa and in Brazil. I used to show an app that I consult here and there, which is called Worldometer. It's connected to the United Nations, and it shows that as we are speaking, there is a given population in African countries. But at the end of my presentation, there will be more, far more. So population in Africa is growing fast. Today we are more than 270 million people speaking Portuguese. in Portuguese-speaking countries, in Africa and Timor-Leste and Brazil, and Portugal, of course. But in the end of the century, we estimate that we will be around 500 million speaking Portuguese. So if there are 10 languages that will survive by the end of the century, Portuguese will certainly be amongst them. Portuguese is a multi-centered, multicultural, polycentric language, and pluricontinental. We are present in all the continents, and we're not only speaking about the Portuguese-speaking countries, we are also speaking about the diasporas. We have more than 5 million people representing diasporas of Portugal, Brazil, Angola, Mozambique, Cape Verde, all around the world. So we are approximately 280 million today. And it's very important that we are celebrating today the Day of Portuguese Language and Culture. Because I used to say to audiences that the Portuguese language is not owned by Portugal, nor it is owned by Brazil. It is owned by all of us. And that's why the community of Portuguese-speaking countries is so important. And language is at the center of our cooperation between Portuguese-speaking countries. We have in Cape Verde, Cidade da Praia, the International Institute for Portuguese Language. That's where we are cooperating to promote and to give more dynamic to the Portuguese language every day. Portugal has launched a program of scientists, invited scientists. We have contributed around 200,000 euros to this program. So we are trying to help the Institute to perform its role. It's very important that we unite our efforts in promoting the Portuguese language. We, Camões, as you rightly said, so you have introduced our institute, so I don't need to do it now. We are responsible for promoting Portuguese language abroad, but we very much value partnerships with other countries. And we are working together with Brazil, for instance. We are working together with Brazil in the United Nations. We have launched a pilot project for teaching Portuguese in the School of the United Nations in New York. It has already been followed by dozens of students. We are ready to cooperate with Brazil in other countries, such as Kazakhstan or Iran, because although we have a quite extensive network of structure in Camões, we are present in more than 80 countries. We are not present in every country, so we need the support of other Portuguese-speaking countries to perform our function. But we are also cooperating with Angola, we are cooperating with Cape Verde. They have the presidency of the CPLP until next year, then it's the turn of Angola. So we are doing a lot of things together. And we think that we need to go wherever the interest exists. If there is a demand, we need to be ready and to be able to offer teaching of Portuguese language. And I finish with this. The cooperation with this university is a perfect example of what we need to do. Because at the higher education, but also at primary and basic school, secondary school, United Kingdom is a very good example of every dimension of us teaching Portuguese, because we are present at the level of the network in basic and secondary education. We are also present at the level of higher education, and we will be continuing to do so in the future. And for this, of course, we are not able to do it alone. We need to cooperate very closely with locals, with the country where we are interested in teaching the language. And the UK is an excellent example, and King's College within the UK, it's the example of the example. So you can count on us, you will be counting on us for the future, and we very much thank you for your cooperation, for the interest that you have been showing for the Portuguese language over the last 100 years. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm the ambassador of Brazil. Even though I am a big admirer of the language of Shakespeare, today we celebrate Portuguese. So I will allow myself to address you in the language of Camões and Guimarães Rosa. Começo por cumprimentar o reitor, Dr. Ed Byrne, nosso anfitrião na tarde de hoje. Saúdo meu colega embaixador de Portugal, Manuel Lobo Antunes, e meus queridos colegas diplomatas de Angola e Moçambique, Diogo Cristiano e Aurélio Matavel. Saúdo também o presidente do Instituto Camões, Luís Faro Ramos, professor David Treece, Francisco Bethencourt, Frederico, espero que não tenha esquecido de ninguém, mas cumprimento a todos os presentes. É com grande prazer que participo da celebração do Dia da Língua Portuguesa e da Cultura na nossa comunidade dos países de língua portuguesa. É especialmente significativo que este ano a celebração se realize paralelamente ao centenário da Cátedra Camões, no King's College London, efeméride importante para todos nós. A celebração da língua portuguesa é, antes de mais nada, uma celebração de nossos laços de amizade. A CPLP traz a um só tempo as marcas da diversidade e da unidade. Se somos diferentes em tantos aspectos, há, sobretudo, muito a nos aproximar. E a língua portuguesa é o principal traço de união entre nossos povos. É sempre oportuno, e mais ainda neste Dia da Língua Portuguesa, recordar, como já o fez aqui o professor Luís Faro Ramos, recordar que o português é um idioma global. Trata-se de língua em que se expressam hoje cerca de 260, 280 milhões de pessoas. O português é o idioma de comunicação na América, na Europa, na África e na Ásia. É a língua mais falada no hemisfério sul. Essa pluralidade geográfica da presença do português no mundo se reflete na riqueza do vocabulário, das estruturas e dos sons das variantes linguísticas do idioma. Sem dúvida, temos aí um patrimônio compartilhado que constitui justificado motivo de orgulho. O Brasil tem se comprometido com a promoção da língua portuguesa no exterior. Presente em mais de 40 países em todos os continentes, a Rede Brasil Cultural é formada por 24 centros culturais, 5 núcleos de estudo e cerca de 40 leitorados. Com o benefício dessa rede, temos buscado estimular o diálogo entre as culturas, fomentar o desenvolvimento mútuo, o entendimento mútuo e o respeito entre os povos. O evento de hoje é um excelente exemplo desse esforço que, bem sei, é de todos nós. O Brasil traz a essa celebração um aporte literário. O diretor brasileiro Pedro de Sena procurou costurar para a leitura nesta tarde uma série de poemas de variados países lusófonos. Ouviremos a série de poemas em sotaques também variados. A ideia é simples, ressaltar a unidade na diversidade. Bom, espero que todos desfrutem das apresentações a que assistiremos. E sigamos comemorando a língua portuguesa com debates, leituras, músicas e outras manifestações desse nosso valioso patrimônio. Muito obrigado e convido o nosso embaixador de português.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Professor Byrne, Professor Evelyn Welch, Professor Marion Thane, Presidente do Instituto Camões, Ambassador of Brazil, my colleagues, Ministers Consuls of the Embassy of Angola and of the High Commission of Mozambique, Professor David Treece, Professor Francisco Bethencourt, Frederico Bonadio, head of the Department of the Portuguese, Spanish and Latin American Studies here in the King's College, It's a pleasure for me to join you on this day where we celebrate the Portuguese Language and Culture Day and also the centenary of the Camões Chair here in this university. A pleasure and an honor, as I say. My first words have to be of thanking you, the King's College, for supporting us during all these years, for hosting us, and for encouraging us. This is a very prestigious university, and to have a chair inserted in its studies planning and have people here teaching and explaining and debating the Portuguese language and culture is for us absolutely fundamental. And your role here has been absolutely irreplaceable. Your role here in the UK, in London, as other universities spread all around your territory who also support us. I think that more than discussing, debating, speaking about the formal aspects of teaching and learning Portuguese culture or Portuguese language is certainly perhaps more important to debate, to study the contents, what means to speak Portuguese, what is the meaning of this language, what the language expresses itself, spoken and understood by many people around the world, as the ambassador of Brazil has just said. Portuguese is a live language, is a language that develops itself, that finds new forms of constructing itself, of expressing images, of expressing ideas. And we should also celebrate that. We should celebrate the enrichment of any language, and in this case of Portugal. And there are actors which are absolutely fundamental for this development, for this progress, for this enrichment. And I think we should celebrate them particularly this afternoon and this day. And those people are the writers, fundamentally, the novelists, the poets, those who construct the language and with their imagination say something new to us. And that is certainly why this afternoon, as the ambassador of Brazil has just noticed, we are going to listen the work and understand and please ourselves with work of those, I would say, workers of the language in first place, which are our poets, the poets of the Portuguese language, either from Brazil, Portugal, Mozambique, Angola, East Timor, Cape Verde, and Guinea-Bissau. And as a Portuguese, you can imagine the honor and the pride I have to listen to the voice of these people that work in our language and discover the meaning of our language. And we should also remember in these circumstances those that in the past, confronted with many difficulties, with many obstacles, could overcome them and present their work and their soul to us. We should also celebrate them and don't forget them. I hope you enjoy this evening. I hope you enjoy this celebration, which is a celebration of solidarity, of complicity among ourselves. And now I'm a man of compromise, so now in some Portuguese words, eu gostaria de agradecer a vossa presença e dizer-vos que estou naturalmente muito satisfeito e muito honrado por estar aqui convosco. Agradecer ao King's College e ao seu Board of Directors todo o apoio que nos têm dado e, sobretudo, aos alunos que aqui aprendem, estudam o português, que escolheram como ponto do seu interesse a língua e a cultura de todos aqueles que falam a língua portuguesa no mundo. Muito obrigado. Thank you very much.
Ambassadors, Minister Councillors, Principal, Vice Principal, Dean, Marion Thane, colleagues and friends. On behalf of the Department of Spanish, Portuguese and Latin American Studies, and as the Camões Professor of Portuguese, I'd like first to thank very, very deeply the Brazilian and Portuguese embassies for their initiative in suggesting that the Day of the Portuguese Language should be celebrated here at King's College, together with the centenary of the Camões Chair. It's a very kind, very generous gesture. I'd also like to thank, he needs to be thanked probably more than once, João Silvestre for the organisation of today's event. And I'll be coming back to him. But I want to pay a particular tribute to the partnership, actually, the historical partnership between the Brazilian and Portuguese embassies in promoting and sustaining Portuguese studies at King's. I'm not going to talk at length about the history of the Camões Chair, but there are two historical points that I would like to draw our attention to. And I'm familiar with some of the detail of these points, really only thanks to the work of my colleague, the historian Abdulkarim Vakil, who has researched the King's archives and knows more than anyone, I think, about the history of the Camões Chair. The first point is the fact that from its very inception in 1919, the Camões Chair was always a collaborative project, supported equally by the Brazilian and Portuguese embassies. Following the creation of the chair, that joint commitment has continued throughout many decades, during which both the Portuguese and Brazilian governments have funded leitorados, dedicated teaching posts held by native speakers. Since 2010, that commitment has been deepened with the creation of the Camões Centre for Studies in Portuguese Language and Culture, as we've heard, through an agreement with the Institute of Camões that is linked to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And we very much look forward to being able to renew that agreement following its first 10 very successful years of existence. And in the same year, 2010, also saw the launch of the King's Brazil Institute, with important support from the Brazilian Embassy. We in Portuguese Studies were involved from the beginning in the creation of the Institute, paving the way in the mid-1990s with our own Centre for the Study of Brazilian Culture and Society. And we remain closely involved in the Institute's activities. Besides establishing that spirit of joint collaboration with the Brazilian and Portuguese embassies, and here is my second historical point, the Camões Chair also established from the start the principle that Portuguese studies, reflecting the geographical and cultural expanse of the Portuguese-speaking world, should be broad-ranging and inclusive in its disciplinary and country interests. Principal Ernest Barker's memorandum on the Camões Chair of Portuguese, dated 3rd of February 1922, stated that it is desirable that the Spanish and the Portuguese departments should work together in close relation as a school for the regional study of the languages, literatures, history, institutions, and overseas expansion of the peoples of the Iberian Peninsula. And accordingly, after the first holder of the chair, soldier diplomat George Young, stepped down in 1922, the position was opened up to scholars representing these different fields and disciplines. Edgar Prestige, who held the chair from 1923 to 1936, was a literary translator and critic and a historian of 17th century post-Restoration Portugal in particular. Charles Boxer, who was Camões Professor between 1947 and 1967, was a historian of the Portuguese colonial expansion in Asia, Africa, and Brazil. He was followed by two extremely important scholars of medieval, Renaissance, and 19th century Portuguese literature, Stephen Record, from 1967 to 1982, and Elder Macedo, from 1982 to 2004. And as the most recent holder of the chair since 2005, I'm a specialist in Brazilian literature and culture. The history of the Camões chair, as its incumbents have successively reshaped and redrawn the dimensions of our subject, is therefore, in that sense, also the history of Portuguese studies itself in the UK. As the teaching and study of Portuguese and Brazilian literature in British universities are now complemented by post-colonial Luso-African studies, Atlantic history, film, race, gender and queer studies, popular culture and music, I'm very proud to work in the Department of Spanish, Portuguese and Latin American Studies, alongside a team of brilliant scholars who are at the leading edge of many of these disciplines. I'd like to pay tribute to them now. Abdul Karim Vakil, is here somewhere, is an internationally respected scholar of 19th and 20th century Portuguese intellectual and cultural history, with over 25 years of service to kings. He's worked especially on Portuguese nationalism, and most recently on Islam in the Portuguese-speaking world, and the challenges posed by contemporary Islamophobia. Co-authoring and co-editing titles such as Thinking Through Islamophobia, Global Perspectives, in 2010, and Moçambique, Memória Falada do Islão e da Guerra. Felipe Botelho Correia is senior lecturer in Brazilian, Portuguese, and Lusophone African studies. And in just a few years, he has quickly established an international reputation for his work on the Afro-Brazilian writer Lima Barreto and the intersections between journalism and visual culture. And in 2016, he edited a very important volume of previously unpublished or unattributed texts by Lima Barreto, Sátiras e outras subversões, textos inéditos. Catarina Foto is a leading young specialist in medieval and early modern Portuguese literary culture, with particular interest in 16th century theatre. She is the co-editor of the Reinvention of Theatre in 16th Century Europe, Traditions, Text and Performance with Tom Earl. Toby Green is senior lecturer in Lusophone African history and culture, and has been the recipient of many awards, including a British Academy Rising Star Engagement Award and a Philip Leverhulme Prize for History in 2017. Toby's research centres on West African engagement with the early Atlantic world, and he is the author of Brokers of Change, Atlantic Commerce and Cultures in Pre-Colonial Western Africa, and most recently, A Fistful of Shells, West Africa from the Rise of the Slave Trade to the Age of Revolution. I should say also that Toby's played an extremely important role in working with universities in Portuguese-speaking African countries in the development of new curricula and structures. That range of disciplinary, thematic, chronological and geographical interests, interconnected by, as we've heard, a shared language and history, is what makes our field, Portuguese Studies, such a rich and exciting one. We are extremely fortunate that at the heart of our Portuguese programme, the teaching of the language itself is in the hands of a very talented and dedicated team led by João Silvestre and Daniela Mittelstadt, and supported additionally by a partnership with the Modern Language Centre under the directorship of Ana Medeiros. Today's event is just one example of the prodigious programme of activities organised by João as director of the Camões Centre. These include lectures, workshops, conferences on literature, cinema, language teaching, film screenings and book launches. As the lector in Brazilian Portuguese language, co-funded by the Brazilian Ministry of Education at King's, Daniela has run a hugely successful series of extracurricular Portuguese language discussion sessions, Café Biscoitos, and she coordinates applications to the Certificate of Proficiency in Portuguese Language for speakers of other languages, CELPIBRAS. Together with João, she has produced an annual poetry and music recital in the college chapel involving students and staff, and in June last year they brought to King's a major two-day event, the second International Symposium on Teaching Portuguese as an Additional Language. It's absolutely right, of course, that the home of Portuguese Studies at King's should be in a department of modern languages, where the study of language is at the heart of all our work, not merely as some instrumental means to an end, an add-on skill or accomplishment, but as the structural core of what we do, how we, as scholars, teachers, and students, we engage with and make sense of the societies and cultures that extend across 4 continents of the Portuguese-speaking world. The absolute urgency and necessity of modern languages as a discipline and pedagogy in our school and university systems ought to be an unquestionable priority in the 21st century, not least as we face the spectres of xenophobia, racism, and prejudice. Yet the point has still apparently not been fully grasped by our political leaders and policymakers. As UK universities face a crisis in student recruitment, in the wake of the neglect that language teaching suffered following the decision in 2004 to make languages optional at GCSE level, the consequent decline in numbers of language teaching graduates, and the problems with the calibration of A-level marking that have made languages a risky subject in the perception of students. Paradoxically, though, university research and teaching in modern languages, including Portuguese studies, has never been more innovative and exciting than today. And leading scholars in our field are energetically addressing the challenge of reassessing the contribution of modern languages to our world in the 20th century, as exemplified by the AHRC-funded project Language Acts and World Making, led in our department by Catherine Boyle. So this is not, I would argue, the time for short-termism, for knee-jerk decisions and disinvestments based on passing demographic trends or expedient calculations. As we mark 100 years of Portuguese studies at King's, the cumulative intellectual work of generations of scholars and a century's collaborative support on the part of the embassies, this should not just be a celebration of our past achievements. Instead, I hope that together, with one voice, we will argue loud and clear for the future of our subject and of modern languages as a whole, as exemplary of the kind of contribution that King's College London can make to the world in the 21st century. Thank you.
So it is a pleasure to be here in this celebration organized by João Silvestre, and I would like first to greet the principal, the ambassadors, the vice principal, my colleagues, and my friends. Celebration is about memory, reflection, and preparation of the future. I will address here the impact of both the Camões Chair and the Charles Boxer Chair on the field of studies of the Portuguese-speaking world. The second incumbent of the Camões Chair, Edgar Perstage, already mentioned, who worked here between 1923 and 1936, played a major role in making Portuguese literature known to the English-speaking world. Charles Boxer, Camões professor from 1947 to 1967, extensively studied the Portuguese Empire. He also wrote an excellent book on the Dutch Empire, contributing to shape global history. Several of his books, such as The Christian Century in Japan became major references to this day. In 1963, Charles Boxer published the first systematic book on race relations in the Portuguese Empire, in which he exposed persistent racism against denial of the Salazar regime. In 1975, he published another crucial small book on women in the Iberian empires, rightly entitled Mary and Misogyny. The next incumbent of the chair, Stephen Reckert, who worked at King's from 1967 to 1982, developed comparative studies in literature, publishing the most significant texts on medieval poetry, Gil Vicente and Fernando Pessoa, which had a major impact. He was also knowledgeable in languages. He mastered Japanese, and later in life, he published an extraordinary book, Beyond Chrysanthemums, Perspectives on Poetry, East and West. Elder Macedo, Camões professor from 1982 to 2004, was an excellent and imaginative essayist who produced new and provocative books on Cesário Verde, Bernardo Ribeiro, Camões and Fernando Pessoa, among many other Portuguese authors. Elder obtained a new lecturer from Brazil and opened the department to resident writers. In addition, Elder introduced African literature written in Portuguese to the curriculum. He created a new position in this area with specific funding. Patrick Chabal was then appointed, a remarkable scholar who unfortunately died prematurely. Elder Macedo then fundraised to create an endowed chair on the history of the Portuguese-speaking world, rightly named Charles Boxer, who did so much for King's reputation. As if all this activity was not enough, Elder Macedo, who was already a well-known poet, became a leading novelist. He also created the important journal Portuguese Studies at King's, now under the auspices of the British and Irish Association of Lusitanists, and founded the International Association of Lusitanists. His photo is deservedly displayed at the Strand, and he is currently writing a new novel and new essays. It's a great example. The current Camões professor, David Treece, who already spoke, he focuses on Brazilian culture, a crucial area of knowledge in this field. The first incumbent of the Charles Boxer chair, Malin Hewitt, and as you know, I'm talking about people, because after 15 years here in the UK, I realized that the initiative of people is crucial in many, many respects. So, the first incumbent of the Charles Boxer chair, Malin Hewitt, developed a remarkable set of studies on the Portuguese Empire, mainly on the history of Mozambique, an outstanding reference book, but also on the history of other African-speaking, Portuguese-speaking countries. More recently, he engaged with the history of Portugal in the world, a very interesting comparative book. When I arrived at King's in 2005, I knew I had to consolidate the area due to the recent retirement of Elder Macedo and the lost links with Portuguese institutions. I quickly became head of department and negotiated 2 new protocols with Camões Institute in Lisbon for King's. One created the position of a full-time lecturer of Portuguese, chosen and paid for in Lisbon. This was complemented by a subvention for an annual symposium and a temporary visiting scholar discontinued in 2015. The second protocol established the Camões Center at King's in 2010, which has radically improved its activities under the current director and lecturer, Dr. João Silvestre. I would like to highlight that Camões Institute has been extremely generous. We are one of the top, if not the top recipient of their subventions in the world. When the Department of Portuguese was fused with Spanish in 2010, it was agreed between myself, the principal, the vice principal, the director of the faculty, and the head of history that the Charles Boxer chair should move to history, where it could reach more students. And I'm saying this because the collaboration with the Department of Spanish, Portuguese, and Latin American Studies, for me, it's very important. and until nowadays and in the future. I am, for instance, supervising with Dr. Elisa Samson Tudela, a PhD student, Benjamin James, who is here also. And the courses are open to both departments. So, I wanted to consolidate Portuguese history in the English-speaking world and develop my interest in crucial subjects contributing to global history. At the Department of History, I created 8 new modules, 2 on the history of Southern Europe and the Iberian world, 2 and the first ones on world history, 4 others on cosmopolitanism, the Inquisition, the European expansion, and inequality in the world. My experience here and previously at Brown University shows that the history of the Portuguese-speaking world is better served in a wider context. In the United States, the criteria for international impact are clear. The books must be significant, they must be translated in the countries the scholar works on, she or he must be invited for major events. My predecessors at King's all easily fitted this criteria. I myself strive to address crucial subjects, such as racism from the Crusades to the 20th century, largely based on primary sources. My books are published and translated in 8 different countries and 6 different languages. I am currently completing a book on the new Christians from Jewish origin forced to convert in 14th and 15th century Iberia, who became important traders and bankers in the 16th and 17th century. Again, no global history on this minority exists who proved to be so resourceful and anti-conformist. I received a 2-year Leverhulme fellowship and I've been working on 15 archives of 5 different countries. The chair is also conceived as a platform to stimulate young researchers and congregate scholars from or working on different countries, Brazil, Portugal, Angola, Mozambique, Cape Verde, Guinea-Bissau, and beyond, like East Timor. My estimate is that circa 150 researchers have participated so far in the activities of the Charles Boxer Chair. Mariana de Castro organized and edited a new book on Fernando Pessoa. New edited books were published in English on cutting-edge subjects such as racism, inequality, utopia, and cosmopolitanism. The idea has been to create an interdisciplinary dialogue between history, literary and cultural studies, anthropology, economy, and political sciences. We are currently preparing 2 volumes, one on gendering the Portuguese-speaking world and the other on mercantile cultures. Impact is also measured by invitations to big events that can be transformative. I'm currently working on an impact case study for the evaluation of the British universities in 2021. It is based on the exhibition I organized in Lisbon on racism and citizenship, which opened from May to September 2017. Due to local support, we could present a narrative on images from discrimination and segregation of Jewish and Muslim people in the late Middle Ages to the slave trade and colonial exploitation of African and Asian people extended to the 20th century, which exposed derision and dehumanization. The exhibition included a post-colonial section to which were invited African and Portuguese artists with relevant works on this field, such as Quiloange Kia Enda, Gonçalo Mabunda, Nástio Mosquito, now one of the stars of the Biennale de Venezia, Ângela Ferreira, and Vasco Araújo. It was visited by circa 60,000 people, many of them young people in school. Local anti-racist activists were involved in public debate. I will address future research on the Portuguese-speaking cultures at the symposium tomorrow, but this fantastic experience in Lisbon, counting on local support and academic collaboration, is the way forward to prepare together new research, exhibitions and documentaries around cutting-edge issues with public impact. Thank you.
A slight change to the order of the event. So in the program, first we have the musical performance and then the poetry reading. But can we start by the poetry reading? Is that okay?
Luta Camões no Sul, Adília Lopes, Portugal. Luta Camões no Sul, salvando um livro a nado. Um livro no Sul salva Camões de morrer afogado.
Camões dirige-se aos seus contemporâneos, Jorge de Sena, Portugal. Podereis roubar-me tudo, as ideias, as palavras, as imagens e também as metáforas, os temas, os motivos, os símbolos e a primazia nas dores sofridas de uma língua nova, no entendimento de outros, na coragem de combater, julgar, de penetrar em recessos de amor para que sois castrados. E podereis depois não me citar, suprimir-me, ignorar-me, aclamar até outros ladrões mais felizes. Não importa nada, que o castigo será terrível. Não só quando vossos netos não souberem já quem sois, terão de me saber melhor ainda do que fingis que não me sabeis. Contudo, tudo o que laboriosamente pilhais reverterá para meu nome. E mesmo será meu, tido por meu, contado como meu, até mesmo aquele pouco e miserável que só por vós, sem roubo, haveríeis feito. Nada tereis, mas nada. Nem os ossos que um vosso esqueleto há de ser buscado para passar por meu. E para outros ladrões, iguais a vós, de joelhos, porem flores no túmulo.
A língua, sem limite, sem fronteira, Celso Oliveira, Timor-Leste. Era nada, nada de recordações, nada de nostalgia. Agora sim, tenho recordações, tenho nostalgia. Era nada, nem dizer nem descrever. Agora sim, sei dizer, sei escrever. A língua, de Camões até mim, sem limite. De Portugal até Timor, sem fronteira. A língua, de Camões até mim, dois povos, duas culturas. De Portugal até Timor, duas culturas, um só destino. Um mundo melhor, um mundo unido. A língua, sem limite, sem fronteira.
Você, Brasil, Jorge Barbosa, Cabo Verde. Eu gosto de você, Brasil. Ai, porque você é parecida com a minha terra. Eu bem sei que você é um mundão e que a minha terra são 10 ilhas perdidas no Atlântico, sem nenhuma importância no mapa. Eu já ouvi falar de suas cidades. A maravilha do Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo dinâmico, Pernambuco, Bahia de Todos os Santos. Ao passo que as daqui não passam de 3 pequenas cidades. Eu sei tudo isso perfeitamente bem. Mas você é parecido com a minha terra. E o seu povo, que se parece com o meu povo, que todos eles vieram de escravos, com o cruzamento depois de lusitanos e estrangeiros. E o seu falar português, que se parece com o nosso falar, ambos cheios de um sotaque vagaroso, de sílabas pisadas na ponta da língua, de alongamentos timbrados nos lábios e de expressões terníssimas e desconcertantes. Eu gosto de você, Brasil. Você é parecido com a minha terra, O que é que lá tudo é a grande e tudo aqui é em ponto mais pequeno. Eu desejava ele fazer uma visita, mas isso é coisa impossível. Havia então de botar uma fala ao poeta Manuel Bandeira, de fazer uma consulta ao Dr. Jorge de Lima para ver como é que a poesia receitava este meu fígado tropical bastante cansado. Havia de falar como você, com um i no si. Si, faz favor. De trocar sempre os pronomes para antes dos verbos e dar um cigarro. Mas tudo isso são coisas impossíveis. Você sabe? Impossíveis. A Camões, Manuel Bandeira, Brasil. Quando n'alma, pesar de tua raça, a névoa da apagada e vil tristeza, busque ela sempre a glória que não passa, em teu poema de heroísmo e de beleza. Gênio purificado na desgraça, tu resumiste em ti toda a grandeza, poeta e soldado. Em ti brilhou sem jaça o amor da grande pátria portuguesa. E enquanto o fero canto ecoar na mente da estirpe que em perigos sublimados plantou a cruz em cada continente, não morrerá sem poetas nem soldados a língua em que cantaste rudemente as armas e os barões assinalados.
Afro-insularidade, Conceição Lima, São Tomé e Príncipe. Deixaram nas ilhas um legado de híbridas palavras e tétricas plantações. Engenhos enferrujados, proas sem alento, nomes sonoros aristocráticos e a lenda de um naufrágio nas 7 pedras. Aqui, aportaram vindos do norte, por mandato ou acaso, ao serviço do seu rei. Navegadores e piratas, negreiros ladrões contrabandistas, simples homens, rebeldes proscritos também, e infantes judeus tão tempos que feneceram como espigas queimadas. Nas naus, trouxeram bússolas, quinquilharias, sementes, plantas experimentais, amarguras, petrozes, um padrão de pedra pálida como o trigo e outras cargas sem sonhos nem raízes. Porque toda a ilha era um porto e uma estrada sem regresso. Todas as mãos eram negras, forquilhas e inchadas. E nas roças ficaram pegadas vivas como cicatrizes. Cada cafeeiro respira agora um escravo morto. E nas ilhas ficaram incisivas, elegantes estátuas e nas esquinas. 100 e tal igrejas e capelas para 1000 quilómetros quadrados. E o insurreto sincretismo dos passos natalícios. E ficou a cadência paliciana da Úrsula, o aroma do alho e do zeteoshi no tempo e na vaga tela. E no calulu, o louro misturado ao óleo de palma e o perfume do alecrim. E do malagicone nos quintais do Luxã. E aos relógios insulares se fundiram os espectros, ferramentas do império, numa estrutura de ambíguas claridades e seculares condimentos, santos padroeiros e fortalezas derrubadas, vinhos baratos e auroras partilhadas. Às vezes penso em suas lívidas ossadas, seus cabelos podres na orla do mar. Aqui, neste fragmento da África, onde, virado para o sul, um verbo amanhece alto como uma dolorosa bandeira.
Crônica verdadeira da língua portuguesa. João Melo, Angola. A poetisa portuguesa Sofia de Melo Byrne gostava de saborear, uma a uma, todas as sílabas do português do Brasil. Estou a vê-la, suave e discreta, debruçada sobre a varanda do tempo, o olhar estendendo-se com o mar e a memória, deliciando-se, comovida com o sol despudorado, ardendo nas vogais abertas da língua, violentando com doçura os surdos limites das consoantes e ampliando-os para lá da história. Mas saberia ela quem rasgou esses limites? Com o seu sangue, a sua resistência e a sua música?
A libertação da língua portuguesa foi gerada nos porões dos navios negreiros, pelos homens sofridos que, estranhamente, nunca deixaram de cantar, em todas as línguas que conheciam ou criaram, durante a tenebrosa travessia do mar sem fim. Desde o nosso encontro inicial, essa língua, arrogante e insensatamente, foi usada contra nós. Mas nós derrotamos-la e fizemos dela um instrumento para a nossa própria liberdade. Os antigos donos da língua pensaram durante séculos que nos apagariam da sua culpada consciência, com seu idioma brutal, duro, fechado sobre si mesmo, como se nele quisessem encerrar para todo sempre os inacreditáveis mundos que se abriam à sua frente. Esses mundos, porém, eram demasiado vastos para caberem nessa língua envergonhada e esquizofrênica. Era preciso traçar-lhe novos horizontes. Primeiro, então, abrimos, de par em par, as camadas dessa língua e iluminamos-la com a nossa dor. Depois demos-lhe vida com a nossa alegria e os nossos ritmos. Nós libertamos a língua portuguesa das amarras da opressão. Por isso, hoje, podemos falar todos, uns com os outros, nessa nova língua, aberta, ensolarada e sem pecado, que a poetisa Sofia de Mello Byrne julgou ter descoberto no Brasil, mas que um poeta angolano reivindica como um troféu de luta, identidade e criação.
Em que língua escrever? Odete Semedo, Guiné-Bissau. Em que língua escrever as declarações de amor? Em que língua cantar as histórias que ouvi contar? Em que língua escrever contando os feitos das mulheres e dos homens do meu chão? Como falar dos velhos, das passadas e das cantigas? Falarei em crioulo. Falarei em crioulo. Mas que sinais deixar aos netos deste século? Ou terei de falar nesta língua lusa, e eu, sem arte, nem musa? Mas assim terei palavras para deixar aos herdeiros do nosso século. Em crioulo, gritarei a minha mensagem, que, de boca em boca, fará a sua viagem. Deixarei o recado num pergaminho nesta língua lusa, que mal entendo. No caminho da vida, os netos e herdeiros saberão quem fomos.
O mote de Camões, José Craveirinha, Moçambique. Exausto de insónias, peço ajuda ao bom Luís Vaz de Camões, o então malquisto exilado português de Muipiti, senhor de ínclitos dotes na arte do soneto, generoso empresta-me seu método de falar com os bruxos no ambíguo tempo dos homens. Ele, o grão sonhador que lambeu suas crostras, imperfilado em verso deu-me o mote, efêmeros, sou os olhos dos biltres. Vamos, os poderes da espada e da pólvora, louvada seja Dinamene e Maria, louvada seja também, e ambos entoamos.
Língua, Caetano Veloso, Brasil. Gosto de sentir a minha língua roçar a língua de Luís de Camões. Gosto de ser e de estar, e quero me dedicar a criar confusões de prosódias e uma profusão de paródias que encurtem dores e furtem cores como camaleões. Gosto do pessoa na pessoa, da rosa no rosa, e sei que a poesia está para a prosa, assim como o amor está para a amizade. E quem há de negar que esta lhe é superior? E deixe os portugais morrerem a míngua, minha pátria é minha língua. Fala, mangueira, fala. Flor do Lácio Sambódromo, Luz América, latim em pó. O que quer? O que pode essa língua? Vamos atentar para a sintaxe dos paulistas e o falso inglês relaxe dos surfistas. Sejamos imperialistas. Cadê? Sejamos imperialistas. Vamos na velô da dicção tchutchu de Carmen Miranda e que Chico Buarque de Holanda nos resgate e, checkmate, explique-nos Luanda. Ouçamos com atenção os deles e os delas da TV Globo. Sejamos o lobo do homem. Lobo do homem. Adoro nomes em am, de coisas como rã e imã, 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 imã. Nomes de nomes como Scarlett, Mundi, Chevalier, Glauco Matoso, Arrigo Barnabé e Maria da Fé. Flor do Lácio, Sambódromo, Luz América, Latim, em pó. O que quer? O que pode essa língua? Se você tem uma ideia incrível, é melhor fazer uma canção. Está provado que só é possível filosofar em alemão. Blitz quer dizer corisco, Hollywood quer dizer azevedo. E o recôncavo? E o recôncavo? E o recôncavo, meu medo. A língua é minha pátria. Eu não tenho pátria, tenho mátria. E quero frátria. Poesia concreta, prosa caótica, ótica futura, samba rap, chiclete com banana.
Será que ele está no Pão de Açúcar?
Da crowd, bro.
Você e tu?
E amo.
Quer que eu te faça, nego?
Bote ligeiro.
Mas de brinquinho, Ricardo. Teu tio vai ficar desesperado.
Bota vinho. Põe a camisola para dentro. Assim mais parece um espantalho.
I like to spend some time in Mozambique.
Arigato, arigato.
Nós canto falamos como quem inveja negros que sofrem horrores no gueto do Harlem. Livros, discos, vídeos à mancheia. E deixa que digam o que tem que falar.
Now, not what expected, but in due time, musical performance by the recently named duo.
Lisboa. No, Londres-Lisboa.
They had to decide what's the correct order. So they're going to talk a bit about the music they chose for this evening, and the floor is yours.
Ok, boa tarde a todos. Muito boa tarde. So, it's an enormous privilege and pleasure to be back at my former university at King's College London, where I studied here for 4 years. I graduated last summer, and I'm now currently doing a master's at Music College in London at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. In jazz singing, and I've brought my very, very good friend, Mr. João Menezes, from Zimbra in Portugal, convenient, who's a jazz guitarist, excellent player, who I also met at the Guildhall, and we're very lucky to have a little comunidade portuguesa in the Guildhall. And João is going to explain a little bit about what we're going to be singing.
Good afternoon. So we had to choose, obviously, music that celebrated the Portuguese language. So what we did was we chose 2 Portuguese songs with Portuguese from Portugal and the Brazilian Portuguese. So from Portugal we choose Rui Veloso, which is a really influential singer that along the years have influenced loads of people, and I think everyone kind of knows his songs. So that was one of the ways we chose that Portuguese song in specific. So we're going to sing Nunca Me Esqueci by Rui Veloso. And then the other song is from Luís Sobral and Salvador Sobral, which is the song Amar pelos Dois, which won the Eurovision contest, which I think everyone knows, and hopefully everyone will sing along, and that would be great. I think so. from the Brazilian side of the Portuguese language, we had a difficult option there because there's loads of good Brazilian music as there exists Portuguese and Portuguese from Portugal language. So we chose a Samba numa Nota Só, which is a song from Tom Jobim, and O Bêbado e a Equilibrista, which is a song composed by João Bosco and has a really nice version from Elis Regina, which is the one that we're going to try to at least deliver at the same intensity that they do that. So I hope you enjoyed.
So I forgot the egg shaker.
Oh no.
Eis aqui este sambinha, feito numa nota só. Outras notas vão entrar, mas a base é uma só. Esta outra é consequência do que acabo de dizer. Como eu sou a inconsequência inevitável de você. Quanta gente existe por aí que falei tanto e não diz nada, ou quase nada. Já me utilizei de toda a escala e no final não sobrou nada. Não deu em nada, eu voltei pra minha nota. Como eu voto pra você, vou cantar com minha nota. Como eu gosto de você. E quem quer todas as notas, ré, mi, fá, sol, lá, si, dó, fica sempre sem nenhuma, fica numa nota só. Pam, pararatatão, tutá. Para o bapterudão, terudão, tebribubarabdera, dararuda, bubobebdebde, tipiru, pipdiru, pipu, piperu, pupderarodora, yarundumbubarebderura, simdira, são taparo, bubarabderaroraro, sepebdebaru. Separo de papu da bodo de pap dere 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 pe 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 febre bu baru de bu dere de bap da barulha do bu bare de bap saram baram 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 de bavana. Eis aqui este sambinha feito numa nota só. Outras notas vão entrar, mas a base é uma só. Esta outra é consequência do que acabo de dizer. Como eu sou a inconsequência inevitável de você. Quanta gente existe por aí que falei tanto e não diz nada, ou quase nada. Já me utilizei de toda a escala e no final não sobrou nada. Não deu em nada, eu voltei pra minha nota. Como eu volto pra você, vou cantar com a minha nota. Como eu gosto de você. E quem quer todas as notas, ré, mi, fá, sol, lá, si, dó, fica sempre sem nenhuma, fica numa nota só. Fica sempre sem nenhuma, fica numa nota só. Fica sempre sem nenhuma, fica numa nota só. Obrigado. Bato a porta devagar, olho só mais uma vez, como é tão bonita esta avenida. É o cais, flor do cais, águas mansas e a nudez, frágil como as asas de uma vida. É o riso, é a lágrima, a expressão incontrolada, não podia ser de outra maneira. é a sorte, é a sina, uma mão cheia de nada, e o mundo a cabeceira. Mas nunca me esqueci de ti, mas nunca me esqueci de ti. Eu nunca me esqueci de ti. Eu nunca me esqueci de ti. Tudo muda, tudo parte, tudo tem o céu avesso, frágil a memória da paixão. É a lua, fim da tarde, é a brisa onde adormeço, quente como a tua mão. Mas nunca me esqueci de ti. Não, 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 nunca me esqueci de ti. Não, 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 nunca me esqueci de ti.
Caía a tarde feito um viaduto e o bêbado trajando luto me lembrou calitos, a lua, tal qual a dona do bordel, pedi a cada estrela fria o brilho de aluguel e nuvens lá no mata borrando o céu chupavam manchas torturadas. Que sufoco louco, o bêbado com chapéu coco fazia reverências mil pra noite do Brasil, meu Brasil, que sonha com a volta do irmão do enfio, com tanta gente que partiu no rabo de foguete e chora a nossa pátria emergentil. Choram Marias e Clarices pra noite do Brasil. Machei, machei que uma dor assim pungente não há de ser inutilmente a esperança dança na corda bamba de sombrinha, e em cada passo dessa linha pode se machucar. Asa, a esperança equilibrista, sabe que o show de todo artista tem de continuar.
João Menezes.
Se um dia alguém perguntar por mim, diz que vivi para te amar.
Antes de ti, eu só existi, cansado e sem nada para dar.
Meu bem, ouve as minhas preces, peço que regresses, que me voltes a querer.
Eu sei que não se ama sozinho, talvez devagarinho possas voltar a aprender.
Meu bem, ouve as minhas preces, peço que regresses, que me voltes a querer. Eu sei que não se ama sozinho, talvez devagarinho possas voltar a aprender.
Se o teu coração não quiser ceder,
não sentir paixão, não quiser sofrer,
sem fazer planos do que virá depois,
o meu coração pode amar pelos dois.
Thank you very much.
Obrigado, João Menezes.
Freddie Benedict speaks better Portuguese than me. It's amazing. Thank you.
Well, by now, after 4 poems in Portuguese and 10 poems in Portuguese and 4 songs, you're quite familiar with the Portuguese language, so I can say this in Portuguese, of course. Muito obrigado a todos por terem vindo, em nome da Embaixada de Portugal, da Embaixada do Brasil, do Centro Camões e da própria Universidade. Devo dizer que é um prazer ver esta sala cheia de pessoas que estimam a língua portuguesa e assinalam o dia 7. E mais uma vez, em nome das embaixadas e da Universidade, convido todos para continuar agora a conversa e a música, talvez, na sala Chapters, no andar de cima, onde será servida uma bebida e alguns comes e bebes, como se diz em português. Thank you all for coming.